Trying to boost my subscribers, I'm trying to maintain the vision. People that know me close just live different than what they show me. It's hard to feel like they know me when I'm just scrolling through images. Truth be told, I feel pain, but I'm on the pinnacle. Been chasing this music thing for a minute though. Know some good people that never see success. And here I am sitting worried about show appearances.
Hi, everyone. I'm Angeline, and she's Resa, and we welcome you to Season 4, Episode 149, The Quickness.
Happy Saturday, everyone.
Happy Saturday, indeed. Today, we're going to explain why we've been away. We've been away for a while, Resa, right?
Yeah, for a little bit. Needed a little breather.
Yeah. As somebody in the boomer generation would say, welcome back, like welcome back, Carter. Or my generation, they would say, don't call to come back. I've been here for years. What would your generation say?
Well, mine would say, we're back. Did you miss us?
I like yours best. Yours is more realistic.
It is.
Mine is like you're living in a musical. Well, in order to explain what we've been up to, it's been about a year and a month now since we've been away. Has it felt like a year and a month for you, Resa?
Honestly, my perception of time for the past 2 years has been off, so it feels a little bit longer to me. But if you're saying it's a year in a month, then I believe you.
Yeah, there was a different president when we left. There's a new
different
president now.
a different life, like a different climate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
A
things are
different
definitely
government.
different. Yeah.
Yeah. So let's explain what's going on with us. Last time we were in the studio in the springtime of 2023, but I remember very clearly what motivated a big shift for us. One was we were a little overworked, right? I remember saying to you, it's like, oh, you ready? You want to record? And we were trying to get the recording date done, and you had stuff going on, and you were like, you said, yeah, I'll be ready. And I was like, are you tired? Do you want a break? And you're like, yeah, I want a break. You remember that day?
Yes, because that was the day that at that point in time in my life, I was starting a new job. And with this new job, I wanted to focus on my work-life balance because my last job, I was very pro work and not a lot of personal, which in the end, like by the time I left, I was just burned out. So, and I didn't take a break between my last job and my new job. Even though I could have, I chose not to because I like to have a consistent paycheck. So, because bills don't stop. So I went into my new job. And of course, with any new job that you take on, you have to learn,
And you're in the medical
your
field for those that
role.
don't know, right?
Right. So I'm in the medical field. I had to, not only learn my role, but also just get comfortable with the work that I'm doing. So I am the type of worker that I like to give 100%. And I can sometimes fall back into old habits because, again, it was like 7 years of me being pro work and putting work first. So to leave that and to start something new and to say, okay, I'm still going to be pro work, but I'm not going to stay later if I don't have to. I'm going to just work my scheduled hours and then I'm going to leave and then I'm going to enjoy my time outside of work. And what I realized when I needed a break from taping was I was working and then it was like I would have like a day or so to myself and then like we are recording. So it wasn't like I had like a full 48 hours to
Yeah,
just
because we
like.
recorded on Sunday nights. Yeah.
Right, right. And the thing is too what I want people to also understand too is even though I'm not at work, let's say on a Saturday is like my errand day. Like I'm running around. Like if I'm hanging out with people, I normally put it on a Friday or a Saturday just so I can, enjoy that. So, but I at least want to have like a full day to myself. So when I don't have that extra day to like decompress and to just do whatever that is, whether it's watching, Abbott Elementary or whatever show that I'm trying to catch up on and, take a nap, what have you, I start to feel
Run down.
run down because I didn't have me time. I didn't have time to just shut everything down for a day
Yeah.
and just do my own thing. So because for a while but it basically was that, where it was like, okay, I'm going. It got to a point where I was like, I need a break. I need to just shut everything down. I need to rework how I view work, and I also need to fix my personal life. So I'm like also pouring into my friendships, because some of my friendships were starting to suffer, because I would get in these moods where I wouldn't want to talk to anybody and they didn't do anything. It's just like when I get overwhelmed, I naturally shut down and I isolate. And I isolate because I just need to, I don't know,
It's like a
I just need,
reboot thing. Like you take a
yeah,
computer and you need to like shut it totally down and reboot.
right. So it's like my thing is I need to like shut down. I need to find my grounding, because I'm feeling like there's no grounding. And I also feel like too, if I'm not good, I can't give anything to any of my friendships. So when I realized things were starting to get rocky, like the time away, I definitely made some shifts, and I make it a point to, like I said before, work only the hours that I am legally scheduled to work. And, when I am off, I'm hanging out with my friends, I'm doing my own thing. And I also make sure that I'm in like constant contact with my friends. And I also
And you're
keep that
enjoying
communication
life,
open. Yeah.
right?
And I'm just living life. Yeah. So like whenever things come up, if I want to do it, I just do it. I don't think about it, because I'm in that season right now. I'm in my soft girl era. So
The soft life, babe.
I'm soft life babe. So I'm just, living life and doing fun things and just being selfish right now, because I could do that. I'm single.
Yeah, that's the beautiful thing about being a single girl in Jersey. That's the beautiful thing
Right.
about that.
Right.
And I know when you took a step back, my whole heart sunk a little bit because I was ready to keep going. But
Yeah.
it was a blessing because God had to wrestle with me a little bit. I mean, it happened right the way it was supposed to happen, because I was like, well, maybe I can go on, without her, and maybe I can do a couple. And God was like, and when I say God, I mean the impression I got from the Holy Spirit was like, you got stuff you got to pay attention to yourself, you know. Now, it's interesting because before you took the break, we and Pastor Quick were on the same wavelength, because in around November time or somewhere like that, he had did something about family ancestry at First
Hmm.
Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens, and had everybody wanting to spit in vials and find out what tribe you're part of, right? And
Right.
so I remember saying to you, it's like, I'm not, Khalid, my cousin, had already done our family, So I was like, and I didn't know very much about my father's side. So I was like, maybe we just need to, you know, not do that. Maybe we'll do just regular ancestry. And then you volunteered and said, well, Nicole, who's my daughter, and your younger sister said she'd already done 23andMe. And I was like, really? She's like, yeah. She goes, and she said, ain't no Puerto Rican in us. I was like, what? Because I always grew up thinking my father was Puerto Rican, that made me half. A dark skinned Puerto Rican, but Puerto Rican. And so I was kind of shocked. I said, get out of here. I said, my first thought was 23andMe is sometimes wrong. And now we see in 2025, there might be a point to that. But I said, well, then we need to do our ancestry. I need to spit in a cup and figure it out, So I did it. My husband did it. And we got our results back. And come to find out, yeah, no, there's no Spanish descent there. And we both felt like, what? You know,
Yeah.
after everything I've been through, for what I've been told, and the tests and things I've took, it's like, come on, really? But then we realized things have come a long way since when I first did my work to find out, what I could possibly be without having anyone in my father's side helping me. And the beautiful thing about it is that there's a lot of people that are curious about their background, that, also spit in a vial and uploaded it. They got connected with family. And you don't get connected with family just like in some random way that somebody pops up and go, hey, well, your family. What happens is your DNA matches come up. Like, this person is, most likely to be your cousin. This person is most likely to be your aunt. This person is most likely to be your brother, your half brother, whatever. And then
Hmm.
you have to contact the person and figure it out, or you have to figure out the family tree. So when I told you, I said, I think I found my family. And you're like, what? And I contacted two people at first. The first one was my niece, my half niece on my father's side. Her name was Courtney. And I said, I think we have a grandparent in common or something like that. That's what I thought it was. I thought we had similar grandparents or something. I said, my father's name to her. And I said, is that your grandfather? Is that any relation to you? Because she came up as a half niece. And then a cousin came up too. And I was like, I did some of the tracing back a little bit. And I said, I think we have a similar grandfather. And I think my father might be your uncle. And we figured out because the markers of our genetic codes were so high, like 400, 500, 300. They're high numbers. It's not like a 45 where it's like you're the fourth cousin half removed, And so when we got to talking, the first thing my cousin Latia was like, well, let me ask my mother, let me ask my mother. Her mother is my first cousin, Sheila. And Sheila's like, what? I think I met someone that might be connected to our family. And so they're kind of like speaking over here, trying to figure stuff out. And then my niece, Courtney, I'm telling her, she's like, I think your father was my grandfather. I never met my grandfather. So she's speaking to her dad and her family over here. And I'm still reaching out to other people I'm matching with, right, at the same time, too. I mean, I found people on my mother's side that never knew and stuff like that. And so to make a long story short, my cousin Sheila, my first cousin Sheila, asked her mother, Miss Shirley, she goes, there's someone that I believe is your brother's daughter. The first thing Aunt Shirley said was, I want to see a picture. She's old school. Don't give me this spitting in a cup and what some, computer said.
Right.
I know what our people look like, right? So she asked for a picture and I gave him a picture and she showed her. And the first time she looked at it, she goes, oh yeah, she one of us. Yeah, I believe it. She looked just like my sister, Georgia. And I never knew who I looked like before. But sure enough, I look like my aunt. I look like my Aunt Georgia. And me and Aunt Shirley talked, and we talk all the time. She's just a delight. And I told Resa what was going on. Courtney and I only talked via email, and she has been an absolute breath of fresh air. She is intelligent. She is kind. She is very thoughtful. She's very respectful of her family unit that she has, and the fact that I'm someone that's practically a stranger that popped up. But she's been very kind to even help me understand a little bit more about her life and what she's experienced in her family and what she kind of can remember growing up about different people in the family. And I just feel blessed. My family is big. I've been able to trace my family back maybe 8 generations on my father's side. I was able to speak to my father. I was able to text with my brother. I learned that one of my brothers, a veteran, has passed already. I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters on my father's side. And I haven't met the siblings, but I definitely met some cousins and I definitely met an aunt. And I've looked at a lot of pictures and done a lot of genealogy. And one of the governors of Maryland is in our family. I was shocked. Chastity Folks, one of the richest Black women in Maryland back in the day in slavery time. She's in there too in the family tree. We have, gosh, I'm going to have to do a genealogy show, Risa, because there's a lot of great people in there. I can't think of all of them now. I got to get the charts in front and show you. But because we connected this way, the next step, if you know anyone worth their salt in the family, is like, we want to meet, And I had already been watching this show called Relative Race that BYU TV puts out. Look it up on YouTube, where they get people that want to meet family members and the cameras follow them along. So I was like, I'm ready. Yippee-ki-yay, let's ride. I told Risa, let's go down to Maryland and meet the family. Aunt Shirley was ready. So was Latia, and so was her mother, Sheila. And they were all going to be there too. And we met in a common public place, and it was great. It was great. Right, Risa?
It was definitely, I will admit, because this is like the first time that I was driving across state lines. But, I'm glad that you and I have that memory together. I was nervous, but then once I got over the couple bridges to get there, I was okay.
It was 5 bridges to get to Annapolis, Maryland.
Bridges, the 5.
Yeah, but the beautiful thing about it is, when you look at different people in your family tree, you don't think about somebody has a different look and you're wondering, oh, you don't look like mom, you don't look like dad, who they look like. And it's hard when you don't have a part of your tree you know about. The minute we saw my father's side of the family, I looked at you and I was like, my gosh, I said, My cousin Sheila's beautiful. She looked just like you. Look so similar in different ways. I can see more of the stuff people say. Risa looks like you. I'm like, I don't really see that too much. I see it. She looks like me in some things, but not all things. But then when I looked at you around my people, I was like, yeah, Risa's a part of the bishop side. I can see deep. I can see the traits,
Not deep. Goodness
Yeah.
gracious.
And I looked at Aunt Shirley. I was like, I see her hands, her beautiful hands. I have similar, in her bone structure. And she's just strikingly beautiful. And it was great that she took the time to come out and meet me. Cause it was like right before, what was the holiday? It was right before Risa. Was it Thanksgiving was about to start or
Yeah, it
something?
was right before Thanksgiving.
And we were worried about if we put it off too much longer, it could be bad weather. So we
Right,
wanted
because
to
around
do it.
yeah, so around that time there were also some like basically word on the weather streets was that there was like a possible storm was
Mhm.
gonna
Yeah.
possibly come through, so we didn't want to delay it too much.
Yeah, and it was really good, and then when we get on Facebook, you just there's nothing but cousins and family, and they were all Latia gave an account on her Facebook
Hmm.
page about the reunion, and, I chimed in too, and just a gracious, beautiful family, very God-fearing. We have a lot of reverends and, pastors and in the family, a lot of first ladies and, people that are very dedicated to the faith, and we also have people that have fallen away, from the faith in the family, like any family tree, it's a lot of branches. And one thing I hope that Pastor Quick will talk about one day, and maybe we can give a real plea to him when the podcast comes back for the next episode, is that I notice a lot of generational, I like to call them choices that kept coming up in my family. People say generational curses. I don't believe in curses. I believe in generational blessings you can have on a family line, and you can have generational choices, the same choices that keep coming up that you have to make one choice or the other. And I'm looking forward to diving a little deeper into that with you and with, our listeners on the podcast. I think it's something that God had this happen for me to see and understand the patterns. Like you talked about when you get overwhelmed and overextended, how you have to like reboot and reset. Your Aunt Sandy was the same way. And I look in the family tree, one of my uncles is the same way. And I go further back, and then one of my great grandfathers sister was the same way. So you can see some of the patterns of how people operated. Same thing with religion. You get the choice of, am I going to be faithful, or am I going to be faithful um, and maybe fall away, or am I going to never accept Christ? You get those choices in the family. You always get the choice of, do you want to believe? You know, and I think I'm going to make a list, since I'm noticing so many patterns, so that way you could be aware. Like if your family has in its family tree the choice about money, to be a good steward, to be frivolous with it, or to be someone that's always trying to steal it or take advantage of people to get it. If you know how the family has always had to wrestle with the choice around funds or money, and you can see how it has operated and shown out in your family tree, then you can say, no, I want to be a person in the family that continues the legacy of being a good steward. I want to be the person in the family that continues to be faithful in my walk with Christ. Those things you have to consciously do and be and make the decision, because there is no lukewarmness with that stuff either. I think it appears every generation in my family, other people's families, for a reason. Everybody can look at their family and see what choices keep coming up, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Every family has something
Hmm.
that they are like, that's popping up, or maybe it's not popping up and you're kind of like, well, I don't understand. And then if you actually do the research, it 9 times out of 10 it can explain why you may do certain things, why certain relatives do certain things, why certain outcomes are the way that they are. And you can also change the outcome of certain things based on the history of of where your family comes from.
Like some people, some families, they never have a problem drinking wine with dinner. But then you got some people that do things in excess. And maybe that's a tipping point. You have some people that would never cheat, steal, lie, and then other people have a hard time telling the truth. And other people have a hard time not being a kleptomaniac when it comes to other things that they like and see out in the world. So you
Right.
never know what your patterns are until you start going back in the family tree, looking at the old newspapers, the articles, reading some of the accounts, hearing some of the stories from the family. Like every family, and I noticed that Satan is working a lot on this, making everybody be divided. Because when this first happened, and I found out that my father's people was alive, and they said that the first thing they said is, "We haven't spoke to him. We know where he is. I know he's in California somewhere, but we don't really speak to him that often. He speaks to only like one sibling right now." And it saddened my aunt, because she loves her brother tremendously, and she couldn't figure out why. So when I located him, I gave them all the information. Here's where he lives. Here's his phone number. Because, I like to put my little, so my little detective hat on, Nancy Drew, hey.
Yeah.
Oh, that might be too old. What's the private eye that you guys talk about in your generation? Because Nancy Drew is
See,
kind of old.
for me,
I'm like Encyclopedia Brown. I'm like really like understand the tech. Yeah.
well, for me, I just say Carmen Sandiego because that was like my favorite
That's
cartoon
true.
growing up, and she was like a private eye that traveled the world.
Or Olivia Pope. She was good at, finding out
Yeah,
stuff.
well, Olivia Pope was like known as the fixer. So I guess in this instance, we can call you Olivia Pope because you were giving everybody his information.
Man, I was on the hunt. Once you realize that your people's there, you want to know who all the people are. Um, you want to fill in all the blanks.
Right.
And, you want to make perfectly clear you're talking and finding the right siblings and everything else. Because the last thing you want to do is tell someone, I think you're my sibling, and you didn't even do enough research to really make sure that their mother is who their mother's supposed to be and the timelines all work out. It was really hard to realize that my father had a family and then started another family and then started another family. And it was hard to hear that. My aunt didn't know that I existed. My grandmother on his side didn't know. He didn't know. When I told him, he's like, she's like, yeah, I'm your, what are you talking about? What are you talking about? And at least that's what he feigned to say to me. And it was disheartening. Part of me was like, I want to go back to being Puerto Rican.
No, you
When
don't
you realize your
understand.
natural father who is alive, that was once dead, doesn't like recognize, like, no, I don't, what are you talking about? I don't know anything about this. That was kind of hard.
Yeah, I can understand that because before, when we were under the impression that you were Puerto Rican, it was different. It was like a
Let's say
different.
half, not pure. But anybody tuning
Oh
in late,
yeah, sorry.
not pure.
Yeah, like it was technically for me because I'm her daughter. It would have been a quarter. So I used to joke around and say, "Okay, I'm a quarter Puerto Rican." I was proud. Obviously, now that I realize that I'm not, or better yet, that I was told that I'm not, I realize that there might be some documents out there that might say that I'm a quarter Puerto
Yeah, I
Rican.
thought about my
I didn't
census
know.
record so bad. I said, I got to go back and
Yeah,
clean up that census record, man. I got to call them folks.
yeah,
But, other than that, I look at it this way. Anytime you take part of your life to embrace a culture, that's a good thing. There's people that are bilingual, there's people that know more than one language. And it's okay to be totally immersed in other cultures and learning a lot about them so you can have a better understanding. Because I
right.
understand our Latin brothers and sisters better than a lot of people in my family because of the amount of time I spent with them as friends, as colleagues, learning the language, learning the customs, learning the food, the music, all of it. And I don't regret a minute of it. Not a minute, Risa.
Yeah, I don't either. Even though I am not a quarter Puerto Rican, I still love the culture. Like my best friend is Puerto Rican. I love the people. So that like the love that I have for the culture and the people is not gonna go away. But there is a little bit of heartbreak because I can't, even though technically you can still go to the Puerto Rican Day Parade that happens every year. I just, not a
I hear
real
you.
Puerto Rican. I'm an honorary.
Yeah. Yeah. We a
Honorary.
cousin. We a
Yeah, we're cousins,
distant
yeah.
cousin. Most of my roots come from Chastity Folks is one of my great grandmothers. One of the governors of Maryland is one of my great grandfathers. And I'm we have some stuff from Wales, some from Ireland, Africa, of course, our people are in the Maryland area. And that's great. When I told my mother, and those that remember, it was like in 2023 about my mother who had she got mauled, and lost, one of her legs, and she had a difficult recovery, but she's doing better now. And I remember saying to her, I said, Mom, I found my dad. The dad she said that was dead. Yeah, that was some conversation, guys. And she was a little shocked. And I said, yeah. I said, yeah, he's in California. And she's like, I talked about his people a little bit. It startled her. She doesn't really want to talk about that time in her life. Sometimes when older people close a chapter, they believe leave the past in the past, which you hear a lot as a kid. And the thing about doing genealogy and looking at the paths and the patterns and things of that sort is when some person decides to not tell the story to the next generation, they lose a lot. That's the beautiful thing about the Bible. It had everything written down to pass to next generations, and even though she held it and tried to, because of whatever hurts or pains she went through, or for whatever reason she had, God in his infinite wisdom said, take a break from that podcast. You got to work on some stuff. And one of the things worked on was the family tree. He knew I had a deep longing in my heart to know that side of me. And he also knew I was under the guise of, misinformation. Nothing is better than bringing something to the light. Part of me felt like should I be ashamed of what I've learned? And I've learned a lot of stuff. But no, it's okay if people didn't know I exist. The ones that do know now, they know what kind of person I am. And they're great people. I was able to honor my Uncle Lestine when he passed away by being able to send down a big thing of flowers, when he passed, because I couldn't be there. I didn't think it was right to sit among the family without really first being introduced and knowing my family a little bit or knowing some people in it. And so far, everyone has been just gracious, very gracious to you, to me. We took pictures with Aunt Shirley and Sheila and Latia. We found out some wonderful things about, the family tree, which we'll share on another podcast, big families, right, Resa? Big families.
Yes.
From what we can see.
Yeah.
A lot of people. We saw
people.
pictures of Thanksgiving and past Thanksgivings and Aunt Shirley's birthday party. And there's like a lot of people.
Graduations.
Yeah.
A
A lot of people. So I hope the beginning of this will be that one day my siblings and I will be able to sit down and have a real honest talk as adults. There's some hurt there because the mothers of each of the children, there's 3 mothers involved in the process. Everybody feels some kind of way, about what our dad has done to our mothers. And there's a sense of loyalty to mothers, and I get that, but he might be my father and he might be their fathers, but we don't have to be our father's children in that way. You can definitely heal a family and not be on the side of division. I love my children. I love my parents. I love my aunts. I love my uncles, cousins, everybody. And I don't think there's anything too big to talk about and talk through. Satan wants you to believe that division is the best thing. They don't understand you. Exit stage left, Check their action later. They don't like you. I ain't got to talk to them. He makes a lot of things division. It doesn't have to be. It really doesn't.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. How did you feel about meeting all the family for the first time, Reese? Looking around and seeing your own face on different people, different things.
I honestly, for me, when I meet new people, I'm just naturally shy. So it takes me a second because I have to adjust and I'm trying to read the room. So when I met my cousin and my aunt and she's
my other cousin. You have 2 cousins.
My other cousin. Yeah, my 2 cousins and my aunt. I was nervous, but I was also excited because I was like, oh, okay, I have more relatives that I haven't met yet. So I was excited to meet
to meet
them
a great aunt is important because she's older to be able to meet them before they're gone. That's great.
Right. And they were lovely. They were super nice and kind and very open and welcoming. So I was like, okay, this is the beginning of of a beautiful relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And so taking a step back to work on the family and get some things answered in the break was a good thing. And another thing that happened to me, the reason why God, and when I say God, the promptings of the Holy Spirit, because God doesn't talk to me one-on-one. Unless there's a burning bush somewhere, I don't hear him as clearly as that. I get impressions and sometimes I get things in my head that pop up, the Holy Spirit will say things and I know I can differentiate between when God says something and when Holy Spirit. God doesn't talk that much. I don't know about the rest of y'all. He doesn't talk that much. I hear from him when I read my word. I hear from him when Holy Spirit gives me an impression or something. But he's not sitting up there kicking back his feet and talking to me doing a diatribe about my life in the corner. It's not like that. Yeah, people that might have that kind of connection, I don't have that kind of connection. Mine is very much, every blue moon, I get an impression or get something from him that I know it's him. Other times, most of the time, it's the Holy Spirit for me. It just is. I get impressions from the Holy Spirit.
I was going to say, for me, even though, yes, every year I watch the Ten Commandments and there is a burning bush, I don't hear him directly. But what I do get consistently is confirmation, whether it's through people or through different events, depending on what I'm praying about during that time. So that's what I get consistently. And sometimes I'll get some dreams that are like, okay, now it makes sense.
Yeah, you've had a couple dreams. That's true. I've had
Yeah.
maybe a handful in my lifetime of dreams I can recall that
Mhm.
seem very much like it might be something I need to be aware of. Nothing, I get words of knowledge from other people. They'll say something in my life. I'll hear a sermon and be like, oh, it's speaking right to me. And the Holy Spirit's
Mhm.
going, yep, that confirms your question you had that morning in the prayer closet, Or I
Right.
open my scriptures and the chapter I'm reading for the day answers something that was a problem for me. So the other thing that was a reason why we need to take a break is that marriages ebb and flow. And I have a good marriage, but at the time we were on a rough patch and we were plotting away at season 4, and I was just like, the Holy Spirit said, if you didn't take this break, you would keep going and not look back and tend to what's falling apart over here. Marriages ebb and flow. I tell everyone that gets married, it's not for the weak of heart. Marriage, you have to make up your mind. This is your person, and you have to do the hard work. That means that's the reason why they say for better or worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, because those things will happen. They will. And you have to know, if this man is on his best day, I love him. Can I love him on his worst? If he's sick, can I love him as well as when I can love him when he's healthy? But can you love him when he's not well? Can I love him when he has money and we're going on the trips and stuff? And can I love him when we're cutting coupons and eating soup all week long? Yeah, those things. And I had to look at, going so hard for the podcast, and some things were falling off. Some things that needed to be attended to in my marriage. And because I'm just like, you must get it from me. The work ethic is strong. You can go from work. I work 2 jobs. I work at Rutgers University and I work at Middlesex College. And I'm a professor at Middlesex and I'm an administrator at Rutgers. And you can just keep in the rhythm of life. Got to work here, get off. Okay, now I got to go teach my class, and then we're going to do the podcast. Like you're saying, there's no time now. I got to, try to clean the house, try to wash my
Mhm.
hair. My husband was like watching me come and go. Like it was almost like he was watching a cartoon, like zoom, zoom, there she goes, zoom, zoom, zooming in and out, trying to do stuff. Him and the dog is like, well, sometime this week, she might, have more time for us. And it's very disheartening, to be with a family member that has so much going on and you're not really connecting. And marriage is about connection. It's a reason why God put man and woman in front of an altar, because to say their vows when you get married in church. It's because, first of all, the man represents Christ, the woman represents the church, and the pastor before you represents God. When you step up to that altar, what happens at altars in the Bible, especially in the Old Testament? Things die
Mhm.
and get sacrificed to the Lord. The parts of you that make you single have to die off. The parts of you that want to say, well, if this don't work out, I'll go back and, I get my apartment I used to have and I'll go hang with my boy. All that stuff has to die off. You are becoming one on that day. So what's good for me has to be good for him. And we have to work in junction with each other. So when things got so hard, because Satan saw how hard I was going to the podcast, like we were getting a good rhythm and stuff, and he started chipping at my marriage. I was like, yo, my gosh, what's going on over here? And when you said you wanted to break from it, I realized I couldn't hold everything. I said, well, that just leaves me to, and the Holy Spirit said, work on your marriage. Then the Holy Spirit say, do some ancestry, work on yourself. And we needed this year off because my marriage is great. My marriage is 100% better than it was before. Do we still have issues like the rest of America under the president that we have right now? Oh yeah, we still got issues, but it's not any issues in my house. Me
Right.
and my husband laugh more than we ever did. It's almost like the first years of marriage for us all over again. It's like it's happy, it's joyful. We love spending time together. That work-life balance you talked about, where we were working on the weekends and everything, God had to make that stop. He said, if we come back, Sabbath day remains holy. You don't work on Sunday. You just don't. And I said, well, I don't want to work on Saturday either, though. Then I want my weekend to be
Your
not
weekend.
not grading papers, doing a little bit of work to get ahead. I want to just love on my family. I want to love on my family. I want to go back to Sunday night dinners. And I want to go food shopping with my daughter, pick her up and go do things, on set. Because why? Because Saturday's free now. So we record. We're going to be recording now on Monday nights. We'll do the recording of what we learned on Sunday. It might not be as glossy as it once was, and you're okay with that, right? Because our YouTube was starting to get really nice
Yeah.
and tight, and I was like, "Yeah, we're doing this," and God was like, "Yeah, but you need to step." And
Yeah,
then
like
and when He told me, the Holy Spirit told me to step aside that same day, you were like, I said, "You're going to record," and you were like, "Yeah." So I said, "Do you want a break?" Hoping you were going to say no, and you were like, "Yeah."
yeah, like I needed a break. But like when I think about like a podcast content, don't get me wrong, like I think it's great for the ones that can have all of the creative stuff on it. But honestly, the type of podcast that I normally listen to, it's just people talking with a mic.
Yeah.
Sometimes they look super done up. Sometimes they're like, hey, I just got done, you know, running errands. So it is what it is. Like we're just here to talk about whatever the topic is or to interview whomever is there. But for me, I'm more concerned about the content of what's being said
Mhm.
than all of the other like bells and whistles of the
And I
actual
get
podcast.
that. But what I will say is, and I thought about changing the format when we came
Hmm.
back, and I put that on in my prayer about should we change it then? Is that, and He's pleased with the format.
Right.
We painstakingly, before we even launched, prayed over each part and what was our intention for the podcast. We wanted something for new and rededicated Christians that are starting on their walk with Christ, giving them a resource to find, that one, there's other people out there doing good things. And there are good people out here. That there are a lot of good pastors out there at the pulpit saying some wonderful things that can lift and edify you, sermons that are worth listening to, that we feel. There's music out there. You don't have to just listen to the Clark sisters when you first get baptized because because you're afraid to listen to the radio. There is great music out there for you. And there's things to watch other than Housewives, you know? So we made it very clear these are the things we wanted to talk about, and like any like podcast or radio show, they have their formats too. And God was pleased with it. And I asked him, should we change it in my heart? And it wasn't about change. It was about you guys need to step down. And the reason why it was about us stepping down and concentrating on other things is because when we went to Bible study or we went to church online for First Baptist Church in Lincoln Gardens,
Mm.
I'd be ready to go in that chat and be myself and you too and just share and be like, hey, morning, and send flower. And he said, no, I want you just to sit and just listen. When we took our break, he said, sit and listen to the sermon. And I was like, but they're gonna forget about us. I was
Yeah.
like, but I want them to know we're still here. And he was like, that's exactly why you need to sit. Because I had that need to now I wanted some acknowledgement for us in some way,
Mhm.
someone that realized we're still around.
Right. Like I firmly believe that there is power in just sitting and being still for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why there's always like this need of constantly having to move. I'm just like, if I need to sit still and just be quiet, I'm going to do that
Mm-hmm.
because 9 times out of 10, it's probably needed. And once I do that on the other side of that, there's peace. And I live for peace because again, I'm in my soft girl era.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that you're in your soft girl era. I do understand the importance of peace and stillness and sitting, and I'm doing all that. I was doing that, but now I'm doing it more conscious. I'm being more mindful about it, more demure about it. I'm really taking it in like God is saying, don't worry. He told me, don't worry about likes. Don't worry about, who's listening. Don't worry about, how many views. None of that. Know that I'm watching. I'm listening. That's enough. When you go to Bible study, he goes, you don't have to say anything if you don't want to. And he goes, and I don't want you to be in the chat. I want you to be more focused on what's being said. It's great that you're one of the number that's showing up. That's enough. You don't have to make anything known. You don't have to be like, do anything special. And that was hard at first because when you're used to working on a podcast that deals with being exposed via social media to other people in order to get views and to get, people to know you exist, you have a lot of focus on the marketing. You have a lot of focus on viewer and audience retention and stuff like that, the analytics. And he's like, nope, don't do any of that stuff. He said, let it go. Let our
Yeah.
producer, I was giving out money. He's like, the producer got to go. He goes, let him go for a while. Take this year off, work on the marriage, work on your family, find out and restore some parts of your family that were missing. It's a blessing to get restored. I felt like a foster kid that finally got to go home when you see your own people. Things make sense about you. When I see things I say and do, I saw it in my aunt. She's similar in some ways. It was great. It was a good time to be off for this year and a month, right, Risa?
Absolutely. I will definitely say a lot of things have improved. I have hobbies now. I have hobbies. Work is great. It's actually marvelous. My friendships are where I want them to be and they're fruitful. So I'm happy. Like I'm definitely at peace. I don't feel like to me it's important to have peace not only when you go to work, but also at home. So I have that in both places. So I'm good. I'm Gucci. There's no problems. Any issues that do come up when I realize how blessed I am, I don't stress about it too much now. Yes, am I human and I have my days, of course, but I'm not sulking in a problem that like appears. I deal with it, keep it pushing because I'm like I have too many things that are actually going for me right now and I focus on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And we both learned how to be unbothered and not let stress. Oh, we can see the signs of stress. Like I go to bed at a
Mhm.
good time every night. I make sure my weekends belong to my family. I know how to turn my ringer off on my phone and not be the first thing I pick up when I wake up in the morning or let it be the last thing I put down at night. To lean into, watching a show or reading a book. I even got an adult coloring book back out. I had one a long time ago. I got that out. And
Right.
it was nice to sit up there and talk to my husband watching, he's watching the news. So we like Rachel Maddow. And so I'm just coloring away a little bit, in one of those inspirational coloring books. And it was very cathartic just to sit and be. Now, did my brain says, you could be multitasking by doing some of this while you're doing that. My brain is very used to multitasking. But I think part of that busyness and that always doing, Satan is doing that, I think, making us feel like we always have to do something, listen to something instead of just be, because it kind of drowns out the promptings of the Holy Spirit. It drowns out the things that could be, the little whispers that of something you should be doing. Like the Holy Spirit whispers, you haven't called your friend Brenda in a while. You should call Brenda. Now, would I have heard that or paid attention to it as much if I was in the middle of trying to do a little bit of work on the weekends? No. I'd be thinking, oh, yeah, I'll call her later. I got to finish this payroll. That's what I would think,
Right.
or I got to
Right.
finish grading this paper. Yeah, I'll call it. I'll keep putting it off. Why? Because I'm putting other things in the way. When you're sitting there just enjoying a show of your family and it comes to mind to call a friend, you go, yeah, I haven't talked to her in a while. And so I picked up the phone. I called my friend Brendan in Detroit. And I said, first of all, I'm so sorry I haven't talked to you in a while. And I want to do better. Let's. She goes, but I know you're busy. I know you're working in, the university and the college and you're doing all this. I said, oh yeah, but that's no excuse. You're my friend. And she goes, girl, I've been busy too. You're right. It's no excuse. I said, we got to pick up the phone and reconnect more often. And they're like, yeah, we're going to try to do that. And we decided to give each other grace because, it's not about, well, you haven't called me this week after you said, no, no, no. She's a true friend. She still knows I'm still busy. I still know she's busy, but now we're trying to be more intentional and not let as much time go by.
Right. And like I just read an article about that because I'm like 33. So it was an article about how millennials are now realizing how hard it is for like around this time frame of like in your late 20s, early 30s, like how hard it is to not only make friends but also maintain them because when we were younger, we were obviously going to the same schools and doing like the same type of jobs. But then when you get older, some of us move away, some of us, to pick different life choices, which is fine. But then you realize like, oh, well, it's not that easy. Like, for example, like my really good friend, she's married and she has kids. So I never take it against her if we don't have a conversation because she's handling family matters. Like, whenever we're able to talk, we talk, but we both make it a point to not let too much time go by without watering our friendship. So it's just it's all about just, giving your friends grace and not having this unrealistic expectation of, oh, well, I called them last Saturday, so they need to call me and they haven't called me, so I'm not going to call them. It's just like maybe they were busy. Maybe they're going through something. Because also, too, like a lot of people, especially right now in this climate, don't have the best mental health right now, which is why I am a advocate more so for therapy. So you just don't know what someone is going through, so we just got to give everybody grace and just not put so much pressure.
Yeah. Another thing that happened while we were gone, and we were about to come back in February, so it was going to be a full year. But something exploded in our family on my mother's side. We were going to come back in February, and I don't even know how to go here, but
You want to go there?
but I'm going to go there because
Okay.
it's national news, and that's how we found out about it. My cousin is Khalid Kamal, the mayor of South Fulton in Georgia. And so he's been all over the news in February, right? And so I remember we just were on the phone talking and we decided to Google him, right? Because we didn't know where he was at the moment. And I said, where's Khalid now? Because we only know where he is normally after the trip is over or there's something on his Instagram. And Risa follows his Instagram a little closer than I do. And so we put his name in Google and some things came up from, I think it was the New York Post and CNN or USA Today came up about him and the council. And I believe there's been like worrying about how funds were being used down in South Fulton. And I remember going on the family chat and saying, are you okay? Khalid, are you okay? And sending the articles. Aunts, cousins, people that didn't know were like, whoa, didn't know this was going on. Because Khalid's very private when it comes to family stuff. We see the public persona like a lot of people in public see, but, behind the scenes, he doesn't really talk as in depth, about all the ins and outs. A lot of stuff he likes to handle himself or keep close to the vest. He had mentioned some things about having some difficulty while he's being mayor. But he also just invited me before we saw this to come down that he's going to do a mayoral address in May. So I said, oh yeah, I'll block off my calendar, cousin. He said he came back from Africa. We talked about that a little bit. I wasn't sure why he was in Africa. I thought it might have been a trip or something, but he seemed to come back refreshed and ready to work. And he actually said he wants to run for mayor again. And he planned on doing it. And then we read the articles and I'm like, whoa, they're talking about his P card and how he used funds, and there's questions around that, and him and the council are more at odds than I thought. And I said, Risa, and we are like reading this, and like every day he was getting hit by so much stuff. And then I said, well, I can see why the Lord didn't bring us back in February because it would have been a little too hard to see all that going on with him. And then, how do we help? How do we, all we could do is pray. I told Risa about it, I told some colleagues about it. And I remember saying to her, he's having his Jonah moment. When God wants you to go a certain direction and you keep doing something else, he makes you sit down eventually. He puts you in the body of a whale and you're going to sit and you're going to think and either listen and make some choices based on him or things will go another way. But he had a Jonah moment. The council made him, sat him down for a minute, locked him out of his suite, his mayoral suite, for a while, took away his access for a while. His suite has been given back to him. He is still doing his mayoral duties, but there's a lot of contention between him and the council. And I look back at our family tree and you can see the choice about funds and money came up again. Being a good steward, being the choice of transparency, the choice of integrity, honesty. He's wrestling that people, how they interact with him and how he interacts in return. The collaborative spirit is one that's a person can foster. That's a choice to be collaborative. It is a choice to isolate. He has a lot of choices in front of him, and running again is a big choice. We feel for his constituents the most because we listened to the town hall, right, Risa? It was kind of, when he came back on the first, before they actually took his suite away, it was very volatile, that one we watched, right?
Right. I think to see any politician, arguing or having a disagreement on a public platform is very alarming. And I just, my only hope with this entire thing is that, the truth comes out regarding like what exactly happened, and that they can all figure out a way to coexist and to help the people of South Fulton get whatever they need for their city to make it be what they want it to be.
Yeah, because it goes to stewardship again. I mean, any leadership position is really a service position. And if you look at leadership as a service position, then you're going to have the heart of Christ about how you deal with people that report to you or people that you work with or people that you are representing. And it's our hope and prayer together that he has enough time and the council has enough time to really decide they're going to work together for the good of the people. I think one of their constituents stood up and says, we don't need any of this infighting. We need you guys working together, because they're all very strong, brilliant people. But as long as you think everything is a fight or you're combative with each other, then you can't get anything done. And South Fulton suffers more than anybody when people can't get things done. So hopefully they're at a place now that some more time has passed, that, because I haven't seen anything in the news lately, which is good, that it hasn't reached national attention. I'm hoping the embers of that fire are just that, embers, and that there's more of a collaborative spirit and they're trying to work through some things behind closed doors, not so much playing it out in the public. Because by the time we hear about it in Jersey, it's pretty big. With something like, because South Fulton is not Chicago. It's not Los Angeles. It's not Washington, D.C. So it's a smaller place to be. By the time we hear about it, it's like, what's going on down there?
Yeah, because again, we are in Jersey. So if something from down south is hitting up north, it's a big deal.
Unless it's a big city down south, like if it's Atlanta, Georgia, of course we're going to hear it. It's like we hear about stuff that happens in Dallas, Texas. But South Fulton, even though my cousin likes to call it, what's his tag phrase, Resa?
He says South Fulton, the blackest city. Yeah, I think that's what he
which
says.
I know some people don't like down there, because that's a campaign slogan that he's using as a tag for the city. And the city has not voted and said they want to adopt that slogan. So that's the infighting about that. It's something my husband, that's something that my cousin really embraces and says, yeah, that we do have per capita, a certain number of, people of color compared to other cities. But until people have all come together and voted that should be the official slogan, the more he says it, it does infuriate some people. And I get that. And some people love it. So it's going to be interesting to see what that mayoral campaign looks like for him. I think this is the year they pick their mayor again, right? In November?
I believe so. I think this whole year there's like different states. I know we have ours coming up for our new governor. Yeah. At this point, like when it comes to politics, I feel like politics have now become like the new reality show. All this stuff happening, Resa. That's crazy. Yeah.
That's a shame that it's become that way.
Yeah, it wasn't. Listen, again, I'm only 33. So I'm still new to the whole politician game. However, growing up, I don't remember all this like back and forth in the news and politics. And it probably was still happening, but it wasn't in the forefront like the way that it is right now, to the point where it's like every little thing is getting said. And it could also be added to the fact that, we have things such as Twitter and Instagram. So they're able to say things on these platforms, and then these different news outlets will pick that up, and then it becomes a headline. And then it's like, and even the headlines sometimes can be misleading, because it's just like, it's more so we have entered this clickbait like arena, which can be very exhausting for most people, because you don't know what's happening, and it gets everyone's nerves like really bad, because you're like, I just read this, and then you read the article and it's like, oh well, even though the title says this article is about something else, and I'm just like, really, why are we doing this? Like, it's not necessary to me. I would love to go back to a time where everyone was more civilized, where everyone was willing to work together, even though, yes, we do have our differences, but there has to be a common thread amongst all this stuff, because the only people that are being hurt in this are the general public. So we need to get it together, because it's looking crazy.
Yeah, I honestly think that part of the issue is with my cousin's travel is that Khalid didn't sit down with the council and make sure definitively they knew his agenda, what he wanted to accomplish, and get input on it. It's not that you are reporting to the council like they have complete ruling over your life, but there are parts of government. You got the legislative branch, executive branch, you got all I mean, they're supposed to work together so that when you want to do something, they can co-sign, they can help you execute what you want to, they can tell you why they believe it's a better time or than to do it now, to do it at another time. I mean, that's one of the beautiful things about marriage. That's why it make it different from being single. Single, you can get up and say, I want to go to the store today. You're with somebody, they can be like, well, wait a minute now. We can't just get up and go to the store because we have to go over and see so-and-so that we promised to see last week. And you have to have a discussion. Like when you're single and it's just you can move how you want to move in the world. When you are with a partner or when you're part of a collective group of people, there has to be a consensus. You know how they say, me and God, we're in consensus, we're aligned. So if we're aligned, when he moves, I move just like that. It's just,
Right.
it's not any of that. Oh, God said, go here. I ain't going there. He says, hey, this the way we're going. I'm like, yes, Lord. And you go that way. So I think that's the problem with the council a little bit is that they didn't know what he was up to. And I got to admit, the family didn't know most of the time where he was either. We really didn't. I didn't know where he was when I would call home. Most of my aunts and my mother didn't know where he was, So it's like, we find out like you and a lot of the world on his Instagram where he was.
Listen, I feel like when it comes to my relatives, I never know where anyone is. They don't know where I
Yeah.
am. So it's like, it's fine. It's
Yeah.
like,
But his only difference is he has been elected and they should know where he is.
well, yeah.
That's a little hard to be, as much as he was traveling and doing things for South Fulton and not have people know in South Fulton where he's actually existing at the moment until they find out later. That's a part, the transparency that has to be worked on. He needs to have his Jonah moment and say, you know what? Let me look at it from their point of view. Let me put myself in their shoes and I can see where I wasn't clear enough on why I was going or what I was trying to do. Maybe I didn't make my plan and maybe he tried. Maybe he tried and they just didn't want to hear it. I don't know. But until there's some kind of consensus, you really need to say, okay, they didn't want to hear about it in the meeting. Maybe when we're not in the meeting, I can go one by one and try to explain what I'm trying to do, via emails, via, taking someone out to lunch, maybe, going to somebody's district and seeing what they're up to and maybe just having a talk as I walk somebody to their car. I don't know. It can't just be I can only try to get my points across in a group meeting. It has to, sometimes you have to try other ways to talk to people that, because maybe collectively it's a tough crowd, but individually you can get them to see what you're trying to accomplish,
Yeah, I just feel like whenever there is any type of public squabble, there are always two sides to the story, and normally there's the excuse me, normally there's like most of the time it's like only one side that's presented as like as the main plot of the story, but then for the ones that are actually in it and they know both sides, it can get very frustrating. So I wish all the best.
Yeah.
I just want, peace.
I want my cousin to be okay after this. This is my cousin on my mother's side. So his mother and my mother are sisters. And I just want him to be okay because this was a crowning moment for our family to have, a mayor in our family. I haven't seen any other mayors on the Redden side. So this has been kind of nice that he got elevated to this point that his constituents voted him to be in that position. And we definitely want his legacy to go untarnished, but it has a couple of stains now, and he's human enough to realize that some things have to be resolved. And like I said, I haven't heard anything in the news, and I'm not really looking as much as I once was. So I'm hoping everything between him and the council is working out for the betterment of South Fulton. Like you, we're giving nothing but good thoughts and good prayers. I'm hoping everybody cooler heads will prevail, and that's what we hope for. And when it comes to the election, the people will put in place who they wish to be there, and those that are in place will remember it's a service position to be a mayor. It's a service position to be a councilman or a council person, I think they say. But yeah, we're watching up here, and everybody's watching. So we hope for the best for South Fulton. I love the fact during the one that we watched, the council meeting, they're trying to do Miss South Fulton to actually be represented in the pageant. for
Right.
Georgia, to pick Miss Georgia. So I was like, yeah, Miss South Fulton should be there, It's a new city, but she should be representing.
I agree.
So a lot has happened since we've been gone, and we are so happy to be back, right, Risa?
We are happy to be back. It's been a minute, so
Yeah. It's going to be more of a balanced podcast. We're not going to be taping every single Sunday, but you will get an upload every week. And we are working on how we're going to do that. We might end up doing 2 sessions on one night just to knock it out. And so it can be off the next week, but we're not recording on the weekends anymore. We're going to leave Sunday for the Lord to do what he wants to do. And thank you, those that have been like waiting patiently for us to come back. How many podcasts have you been watching in the past where they went away? You kind of like wondering, what happened? Are they coming back, Risa? How many have you? I got like 2 or 3, like Jessica Reedy. I'm still waiting for her to come back with her podcast.
honestly, out of the 3 that I have in rotation, they didn't really go on hiatus. So they've been consistent throughout the entire time. So
Yeah.
like they might have like an off week, but they weren't taking like a large they weren't taking like a large gap of time where it's like, oh,
Yeah, we took
we're
a
not.
large gap. We did the podcast fade, but we didn't do it on our own volition. God kind of like sat us down. He said, yeah, you guys going to sit down and work on some stuff.
Right.
And I'm so glad he did. It's like we were in his shed house and he's like, it's okay. I'm molding my own thing here. I don't care what the world wants you to do. You're going to do what I want you to do. And if you're willing to be obedient, I will reward you. And I think it's been a great reward. You feel more balanced. I feel like, I have like a brand new marriage. I feel like I have a brand new family. I feel pretty good.
I feel good too. Like I'm, on the right track.
Yeah. And now we're in Lent, so we gave up a lot of stuff with the rest of our
Yes.
church, right? I want a cookie so bad. I can't wait
I have been
until Good
craving
Friday where I can have a cookie or something.
Yeah, I have been craving like a brownie and vanilla ice cream so bad, and I'm just like counting down the days because we're at that point where we're like a little over the halfway point,
I noticed
and
that
I'm
the other
just
night too.
like,
I said, we're past halfway.
yeah, we're past halfway, but I'm starting to approach the 5 miles to empty brownstone, and I'm just like, I just want a brownie, and it doesn't help that I also got some Girl Scout cookies, but I put them in my freezer, so I wanted to
You have
support.
Girl Scout cookies in the house? How
Yeah,
do you go
yeah.
past your freezer every day? I'd be like, they'd be talking to me when I'm in the bedroom if I had cookies
Well,
downstairs.
they're in the back of the freezer, so I don't it's out of sight, out of mind, but I got them because I wanted to support the children that are out here, trying to do their best. But it's a struggle because every now and again, because like my favorite Girl Scout cookies are the peanut butter chocolate ones, and I have those, but I
You
can't
know they were
eat
in the
them.
press about what's in their cookies. You know that, right? I think in February there was an article written about what's in the cookies.
At this point in my life, I have given up a lot.
And then I made you the other day put the Yuka
That's what I'm
app on your
saying.
phone.
I have given up a lot. I hardly even eat processed foods now because I'm always finding out something that's in them. And
Tell them what
I'm
happened when you did the Yuka app.
literally, I use this app, and basically what it is an app where you can scan the barcode of whatever food or whatever item you like, whatever item you have bought from the store, and you can see if it has any like harmful things in it. Some people use it for hair products as well. I'm using mine strictly for the food because my hair products are good. Shout out to Beyonce and Secret. But I scanned a couple food items.
Yep. Yep.
And out of those couple items that I thought were healthy, because they have real ingredients in them and real things in them, like real vegetables and things of that sort, found out, they weren't the greatest for me because they had a whole bunch of preservatives in it. So I got annoyed because
Yeah.
again, I won't say over the past 2 years, honestly, I have done a overhaul of how I eat. I eat mostly whole foods. I hardly eat red meat anymore. I say hardly because it's only every once in a blue moon if I'm craving it, I'll get it. But I mostly eat fruits and vegetables, and then I will eat some chicken on occasion if I'm craving it. But I try to eat mostly vegetarian. So with that, obviously, my choices are kind of limited, but not really, but kind of. So when I'm buying certain foods that I'm thinking are, they're good, they don't have a super long shelf life, I'm thinking I'm in the clear. Clearly, according to this app, I'm not. So now I'm sitting here and for example, there was this spinach dip that I scanned, and I'm thinking, oh, it should be fine as
I
spinach.
have it too. I bought one too when I was with
Right.
you.
And mind you, at the same time that we're on the phone talking about it, I was making a baked potato and putting this stuff in my potato. And then when I scanned it and I read back the results to her about, the stuff that's in it, even though, yes, you can read on the side of of the container of
The
what's in it.
ingredients, yeah,
Yeah, the
yeah.
ingredients. I thought I was fine. I was like, okay, it's not a big deal. Like it rates the actual product from 0 to 100. So the 100 is like the highest you can go, and the closer to 100 that you are, the better. The lower the number is not so good. And when I found out that, there were some harmful things in this wonderful spinach dip, I realized this is going to be another thing that I have to make by hand. It's already gotten to the point where, because pizza, which is one of my favorite foods, is so expensive because people want to charge like $30 for a pie. We're not doing that.
Yeah, that's like a take of gas. Yeah.
Literally, that's legit putting gas in my car. I've got to the point now where I make my own pizza from scratch from the dough that I buy that is, from the store. But I do use, like, obviously real tomatoes and real cheese that I have to shred myself. So I'm starting to become.
Yes, you were freaked out when I told you about it's better to shred instead of getting it in the bags because of the cellulose, which
Yeah,
is actually wood filler that's in cheese, shredded cheese, because you're there. US, they allow you to have at least 1% of cellulose in there. And I was like, what do
right,
we need wood chips for? Why do we need sawdust in our cheese for?
right.
To
Like for
shred it
the
yourself.
longest.
So she's shredding it herself now.
Right. So for the longest time, I have been a person of convenience, but apparently with that comes a price because you don't have the greatest quality of food with convenience. So I've now become the person that makes a lot of things from scratch, or I'm buying things in its raw state and then, doctoring it up to make it whatever I want to make it. So I guess you could say I'm in like my Susie Homemaker era right now.
Yeah. You're in your
If you want
Meghan
to,
Markle and your
yeah,
Martha Stewart era, which I told you too. This is the wonderful thing about genealogy. A lot of people on the bishop side, farmers and own and had gardens and stuff like that. And so they're used to eating good produce. Like they know what a good tomato tastes like, and like they're used to getting stuff that they've grown themselves. And you're just getting back to something in your DNA that most of the family love to do anyway. You never knew you would love whole foods as much as you do. It might be more work, but you kind of like the taste of it. You made your, what do you call it, Chipotle bowl, and you told me it tastes better.
yeah, don't get me wrong. I do like it. When I think about it, when I think about my history, like my eating history, I was already a picky eater as it is. So the fact that, I have now come to terms with the fact that I do like Whole Foods better, that's great. It's just the fact of the matter of, okay, we got to take it from scratch. I can't just get, and again, I'm not like trying to be that person that's like, oh, you should only buy foods that are whole food. I get it. Some people can't, but I also understand too why there are people who want to get their own farms, because I'm about to become that person where I'm like, I don't want the chickens or the cows because I love animals from afar. I only know my face. Like, I'm more so like, okay, can I grow my own broccoli? Can I grow my own apples? But even then, you do that, then you have little animals that want to come through and eat it. So I would still have to do the research on that, on how that would work. But I understand why people want to have a farm and want to grow their own fruits and vegetables, because there's just a lot of things happening with our food that is given to us, and it's unfortunate. But I know I'm not the only person that is like actually shifting how they eat, not only for health reasons, but also just for the price. Like fast food used to be cheap, and now it's
Yeah.
like expensive, like $20 for like a burger and fries. And I'm like, forget it at this point. I
Yeah.
don't even want
But
it.
people, a family of four eating out, that's groceries,
It
you
is
know?
grocery, or like a, paying gas for your car.
Yeah. And the one thing that's beautiful about it is that when you make your own, yes, it takes more time. I think America, our health is suffering because we want convenience, like you said. That's all we
Mhm.
want. We want things quick, fast. Let's skip over some steps in the kitchen. Rather than making a salad from scratch, we want it in the bag. Rather than shredding the cheese ourselves, we want that, ready available in a bag. We want everything so quick, 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 because we're telling the world we're just so busy as Americans. We're too busy to, chop up anything with real parsley. We want the dry stuff. Just take it out the cabinet and sprinkle it in. Some people don't even know what real parsley tastes like, and some people do. Some people don't. We're rushing and rushing. Used to be, parents would get up. My mother would get up. She'd make some biscuits on Sunday, or on Saturday morning. And when I made biscuits during this break, I made biscuits like 2 weeks ago. My husband came in the room. He stopped. He said, hold up right there. He took his cell phone out and took a picture. He's like, I've lived in New Jersey for years. I have yet to see a Black woman making a biscuit. And he goes, I got to take a picture of this. Because he grew up, his mother made biscuits. My mother made biscuits. But he's right. Most women, most people would take the easy way, easy breads, easy whatever. We go to the bakery and get, rolls and stuff, or we get the biscuit in the can, hit it on the side of the side of the counter and throw it in. But I said it was great to be actually to make, like you said, make the pizza. It's a great process to learn how to do those things.
Right. And then like when you have like these successful restaurants, that are like, getting deals with different stores, and then they're taking their products that they normally make from their restaurant and putting it in the stores. You're like, I can, use this or eat this. And you're thinking that it's good because it's restaurant quality, but then you don't realize how many things are being put into it to keep it fresh.
Yep. Yeah.
So that's where we are right now.
Yeah, food is supposed to expire. You're right.
Yeah, so it's like I've gotten to the point where like I used to have on deck, just on standby, I would have a bag of frozen French fries in my freezer. It's gotten to the point now where I just go to my local market and I buy the Idaho potatoes. Yes, yes. And I make them myself. So
In
I'm
the air
making
fryer.
French
That's
fries
right.
by myself. Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what? Over time, your body appreciates less preservatives. So the Yuka app, it's a funny little thing because you can scan hair and face products and be wanting to throw out everything in your bathrooms. But I think because the makers of it, they're looking at what's in the product, not the amount of that thing in the product when it comes to hair and skin stuff. So I say use it with caution when it comes to your hair care products and things of that sort. Make sure you have more than one source for those. But when it comes to food, they have no bias. No one is paying their bills. No one is funding them. They're doing it all themselves. And they are going in and saying, yes, this is a good product or no. And they're giving you alternatives. When you scanned your spinach dip, if there was an alternative that might be better, it would be listed below. But it also tells you, well, maybe I want to try to make spinach dip myself and see if that's better for me or if it even tastes better for me.
Yeah, like because
You didn't look too happy. She's like, yeah.
Well, no, because you want to know why? Because I know before we were talking about technology, and I find myself, even though I am really trying to stay off of my phone, but unfortunately, because I came up with my cell phone, my whole society did, or generation did.
Generation, yeah.
I have found myself on TikTok doom strolling. Now, mind you, what am I looking up on TikTok? Recipes, funny things, but mainly recipes of things and people. I saw this lady. I believe she is from the Amish community, and she was showing people how to make their own jam from scratch. So I was like, oh, took a note of that. Then I had people.
Yeah, because we're going to pick strawberries this year, so that'll be great.
Right, right. So she was showing people how to make jam. I've followed people that have like my main thing is, again, because I do eat mostly vegetarian, I'm following like a lot of people that are vegetarians that can give me different recipes, so I'm not eating the same thing and getting bored. But that's like the main purpose of me having, I now have to find people that are like, okay, I did the bulk of the work. Here's the recipe, or here's a recipe book. You can just, buy it and then get all the stuff for it. And then it's a whole bunch of prep, which goes back to my original sentiment of why I need my weekends to be for me. So I can have a day where I'm not only shopping for these things, I am meal prepping, and I am making things on the same day, and things are getting put in my refrigerator so I can, throughout the week, reheat it.
Yeah. Meal prepping is a thing that I think everyone's doing now more because of this economy. But it's so helpful when you buy something, I'm going to use the potatoes for the baked potatoes I'm going to make and the fries I'm going to make and the mashed potatoes I'm going to make. And you can kind of plan out, when I buy, my dog is even eating better, my husband is like, he's like, make sure you get sweet potatoes. And like, remember we were in the market and I said, oh man, Risa, I forgot to get sweet potatoes for Truro. I said, could you get a couple of sweet potatoes? She ran back over there. And I said, oh, yeah, and broccoli. He needs broccoli. And she's like, dang, this dog eats better than most people. Because he has rice. He has brown rice. He has, broccoli. He has sweet potatoes. And it's mixed with some of his dog food so he can eat a little less processed. His digestional tract is better. He doesn't itch as much. You know how dogs itch a little bit and shake their heads a lot. He always sleeps really good, but he kind of likes this whole food stuff. Gary eats less meat, my husband. And so he's kind of liking how he's feeling, eating more vegetables. Dr. Allison said, "You lost weight. You're doing great. Your cholesterol's down. What you doing?" He goes, "Oh, they got me eating more vegetables." He says they because he thinks because me and you. He goes, "They got me eating more vegetables."
Right. Right.
He's doing great. So, health wise, the more you lean into the food sources and looking at it, it's hard at first to watch some of those documentaries about, I don't want to hear about microplastics. You don't want to learn that stuff, but you got to learn it so you can do better.
Right. Like I feel like it's important to learn about these things. Like I even gave up. I don't want to say completely I gave up, but like for the most part, I've temporarily put a pause on my caffeine intake. And I
Uh-huh.
do blame state testing for this because, growing up and having to do testing, what was it? Once a year, that was my time to go to my Dunkin' and get my coffee. And that's how my coffee situation happened. But because of this whole change of, trying to eat better, I know presently, obviously, I'm not drinking coffee right now, or yeah, I'm not drinking coffee right now because I'm, you know,
Let
uh, Lent. But when I get off of Lent, will I go back to coffee? Maybe.
decaf or regular.
I do. See, I do decaf.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I
I
do
don't want to
decaf.
be, I want to sleep at night. I want to go to sleep at night.
Now, I'll be honest. The only time that I do caffeinated, it's when I'm gonna be up late. Great example. I'm going to see Beyonce, so I will
Yeah.
be having caffeine at some point. Because I'm sorry, I don't know what happens, and a lot of people have said this. Something happened when I hit 30 and I used to be able to stay up late. And I mean like be out late. Like I would be like visiting family and be out late and be driving home from like, I don't know, around 11, 12. Can't do that. I want to be in the house by 8 before the sun go down. I don't want to be back home.
But be careful though, because coffee is a diuretic. I mean,
I
caffeine's a
know.
diuretic. So you can't drink
Right.
the coffee too soon when you're about to go with your beehive friends to see Beyonce because you'll be trying to go to the restroom the whole time. You got to
Yeah,
drink it
no.
enough further up in the day.
Yeah, so what I did the last time, because it's like not my first rodeo, what I
Yep.
did the last time was I started my day with the coffee. So I normally eat around like 10 o'clock. So around 10, I had coffee, the regular size. And then by the time it hit about like 8 o'clock, 9, normally I'd be tired, but because I'm running off of endorphins, yeah, endorphins and caffeine, I'm like wired. So it doesn't hit me until I come home. And then I'm like, I'm hungry and I'm tired. Cause it used to be like my concert, routine used to be, okay, get up, start my day, go get dressed, get my coffee, get ready for or chill for like an hour, couple hours, then get ready for the concert, drive up to the concert, wait, have the show, come back home, go to like McDonald's, go to McDonald's.
No, not McDonald's in the
Yeah.
middle of the morning.
Well, it's not even, it's like, because the concert normally ends around like 10 something. So I don't get home till about 11. So it's like most places around me are closed, but my McDonald's isn't closed. And the last time I went there was like obviously 2 years ago at this point. And I was like, oh, I want to go to McDonald's and I'm going to get me like a burger and fries and a Sprite. Worst mistake of my life.
Ever.
Because the next day, my stomach was like Tim's in a dryer. I was like, oh, my stomach hurts.
So now you're going to meal prep before you go see Beyonce. So when you come
Yeah.
home, there'll be something in there
Yeah.
that you'll
So I'm
be
going to,
okay with.
right. Like, I'll probably do that because I'll save money.
Yep.
Even though, yes, it is convenient. I don't like that. Like, what the minute my stomach gets affected, I don't want it anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
That's one thing about when you eat more things that you make yourself. You're right. You're right. And I
yeah.
think that's the important lesson we're going to learn. A lot of lessons through, this economy, this administration. Like we're learning to go back to basics. You started off, your mother and your parents were cooking you food from scratch as a little kid. All of us are making our own foods again. And all of us are looking into gardening and looking into eating better, what's in our food that we're eating and how we're taking care of our health and how stress is affecting us, like to know what's going on. So this comeback is a good thing for us, but it's a good thing for other people. And I think something to tell people that are in any kind of ministries that they're doing for, it's okay to take a step back. It's okay to tag team somebody else in and take a break. I mean, take a real break, not one of those, oh, you guys will see me next Sunday. So-and-so's going to be here. I'll be back. Sometimes you got to say, I'm taking this month off. So-and-so will be here with you. And then when I come back, they're going to take a break off and everybody's going to be okay. Yes, people missed us. We missed them. Yes, people miss people that are heads of ministry, but you got to take care of home. I don't want to see a pastor that's running a ministry and he's taking care and loving Christ's bride, God's bride, the church, more than he's loving his own bride, taking care of the kids at church better than he's taking care of his kids. I thought it was great when Pastor Quick said, I turned my phone off and I was enjoying my children. How you like that? I would like him to do it for longer stretches of time, honestly. He said that last week. I want him to be off for 2 Sundays in a row. Where
Right.
he's not speaking somewhere else. He ain't doing nothing but spending time enjoying his family or taking a break.
Honestly, that's the way it should be. Like for any job that anyone is doing, but especially the ones that are like you're constantly on and you only have like a certain limited number of days, just like when you're off, be
Be
completely
off.
off. Don't
Yeah.
check in. Like there's really no need to, unless you absolutely have to. Let it be like, certain times that you have to. But if you really don't have to, I would strongly advise disconnect, spend time with your kids, your loved ones, your friends, whatever. Cause it's like, as I have heard before in a past life of mine, the work will get done whether or not you're here. So just decompress.
We all know someone that puts in days off. And if people go, oh, so-and-so's going to be out today. You go to work. They come right in behind you like, what are you doing here? I
I
had to
was
do
that
this real
person.
quick. And you're saying to yourself, you always come in when you're supposed to be off. As
Right.
if, wow, you're showing that you're such a great leader or such a great colleague or back in the day when I was growing up, they always said, Black people got to work harder than everybody else to get what we have. Well, you know what? We're working hard. And the only thing that's happening is we're killing ourselves sooner. We need to put the focus where it needs to be. Work hard for the time you're there, but when you're off, you're off.
Right. And then too, I've also seen the conversation of the only thing that happens when you are the hardest worker in the room is that you get more work. Same pay, you get more work. So it's like you're just better off just pacing yourself and doing whatever assignment whatever your job is, just do it well, but then also make sure that you're taking your days off. And also if you're able to like request days off, take the day, spend time with your family, go to the weddings, go to the birthday parties, go to the vacations, because life is
Yeah,
too
go to the
short. And
recitals, go to
yeah,
the
like
practices, go to the,
right.
sports events. And another thing that happens when you work all the time, is that people actually start wondering, especially if you're overextended and you're burnt out, when you start missing stuff while you're working hard, it looks like, well, you're working that hard, but you're so burnt out and you keep dropping stuff. You're not as
Hmm.
efficient as you would be if you just step back and
Hmm.
recoup. Me and Gary came down with the flu in March. He caught it. I started to take care of him and I caught it. And I felt terrible because I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, I'm going to be out of work. I'm going to be not be able to teach my students. Everybody's very understanding. They said, oh, we're so sorry, And I decided, I said, you know what? We both had the flu shot, but we got the flu anyway. And I said, I'm going to lay here and totally recover. I'm going to work from home and I'm not going to pull myself into work like I'm trying to show everybody I'm Superwoman. I'm going to work from home. I'm going to go to my doctor. I'm going to take care of myself. When I went strolling back in, they said, oh, I heard you were sick because I was down for like a week. I
Hmm.
was like, yeah, I was. I stayed out for 3 days, out of the office for 3 days. I came back in. I was feeling good. One, because of the shot. Two, because God said, yeah, you sitting down and you're going to rest and you're going to totally rest. You're going to sleep when your body wants to sleep and you're going to still keep that work-life balance. When it's a work day, you're going to work. And when it's time to close that laptop, you're going to close it. And it worked out good for my body because I didn't have the pressure or the stress about I gotta multitask. I'm trying to get well, but I'm also trying to do this too. When you're just totally focused on just healing,
Hmm.
you eat better food, you sleep more, you drink more liquids and water, you take your medicine on time. You know how it says take one every 12 hours? You actually take
Right.
it on time because you're not focused on anything but healing.
Right. And that's one of the things that I actually love about my current job that I work at, the current company I work for, like they're big on telling people, make sure you use your PTO, make sure you're enjoying your time off. And even when people do get sick in my department, we're not sitting here being like, okay, so when are you coming back? We're just like, you know what, take care of yourself. Like whatever you need to be, whatever you need covered, we'll figure it out. Like we all come together and we will cover people's assignments because we get it. Like life happens, and we're not going to punish you for being human and getting sick, or God forbid having like a life situation that occurs.
One of the hardest things about being someone that's like a single parent or, getting back in the workforce, like when I had my first divorce, and I've only had one, but when I divorced your father, and I had to get in the workforce, there's so much you want to prove. There's so
Mhm.
much you're trying to catch up on. You're trying to understand and learn and know. And you miss out on a lot of family stuff. Why? Because it's like you're trying to get the job done. You're trying to show your value and your worth. It took a minute. It took my 50s to realize, I missed some valuable time with you and Nicole. I really did. And if I could turn back the clock, I would. Did it make me more talented in different areas at work? And yeah, did I take a lot of my talents and multiply them in the time? I did. But my family life suffered a little bit, but I was also out of the workforce for, the time when you guys came into the world till about you were about 6 or 7. I was totally out the workforce. So I had to make up time, I
Right.
felt like. And it's hard for anybody that's out there that's trying to do it. And the kids are like, you're never around, you're never there. Or you're here, but you're not here. You're on the laptop, you're doing this, you're doing that. I feel for the kids that are trying to understand it. You don't really get a good perception of what's occurring until you have your own family, until
Yeah.
you're forced to work, but also you might miss the first steps
Mhm.
because a babysitter saw them instead of you, or a caretaker saw them instead of you because you were where? At work. Because this is like a two income society we're in now, Risa.
Yeah, like
If you want a
that.
house, you gotta like, save up for it, or, it's harder out here.
Right, like that balancing act, like I commend all parents that are like trying their best to balance like their work life and their personal life with their kids, because it's not easy. And I do recognize that sometimes kids are like, "Oh, I had this recital and you didn't show up." And it's not as if they didn't want to show up. Sometimes like they tried their best to leave work early, but then something may have came up so they couldn't leave as early as
Hmm.
they wanted to, so they may have missed some time. But I feel as though from all the stories that I've heard from people through social media about like work life balance, like we're all like trying our best to give the companies that we work for what they ask for within reason, but then also give that same amount of energy to the people that are outside of the workplace, and make sure that we have like a fruitful life. Because you're right, like even though you can be super skillful and have all these skills for work,
Yeah.
then you turn around and your personal life is like not where
Yeah.
it could be. Because I know for me, when I was working a lot, I found myself like, I love to talk clearly, but it got to a point where when I would have conversations, it would be primarily about work.
Yeah.
And
Cause
my
that's where
friends,
you mostly were. Yeah.
yeah, and my friends were like, okay, but like, what else is happening? Like, because all you're telling me is about like your work things, which are great. Glad you're working, glad you have a paycheck, but like, what else is going on? Like, what hobbies do you like? Like, what shows are you watching? What
What's the
books are you
last
reading?
restaurant you went to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I couldn't, and like every time those would come up, I couldn't say any. Like, it's not that I couldn't, I just didn't know what to say, so I would just default back to work and be like, well,
But now, God gave you this break. You worked on you. You took a break. You were doing a
yeah,
lot of stuff. You have a lot of things to talk about. And it was a good reset. I mean, it was very cathartic for you. I mean, you were driving over 5 bridges, honey, all the way down to Annapolis from here
yes,
and back in the same day.
right. Driving over bridges, spending time with my family and friends, like, just I wanted to be very intentional with the year that we were off, and I wanted to pour into me and be selfish, and I did that. And I do it again. Like I'm not going to apologize for it, because again, I'm in my season of singleness. And as you stated before, when you are with someone or married to someone, you have to answer to someone. I answer to no
Well, not
one
answer
besides.
to like they're a boss, but
Well,
more like you have to be collaborative with someone.
yeah. So like, okay, so you have to be collaborative. So right now I am in a place where the only person that I am collaborative with on occasion is my mother
And you're God.
and God. That's it. Everybody else is like no shade, but shade like there's not like, unless we're gonna hang out, that's different. But like for the most part, like I do what I want to do
Yeah,
within
I'm more
reason.
like a sounding board. I'm
Yeah,
like, I just like, because if Risa doesn't want to do something, she ain't doing it.
you know,
Like that podcast, I'm like, do you want it? She's like, yeah, I want a break. She
yeah,
said it kind of quick, and I couldn't even like try to, find a way to get her to look at it differently. She said it so quick. I was like, that was confirmation from what the Holy Spirit said this morning. Because she said it kind of definitively, like, no, I need a break.
well, yeah, because like for someone that is still trying to not be a people pleaser, because again, I'm only 33. It's very easy for me to put other people's needs before mine.
Not anymore. Not
Yeah,
after the year we took
right,
off.
right. That's what I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
during that time, it was easy for me to okay, say yes to this, yes to that, and the next thing I know, I'm miserable because I kept
Yeah.
saying yes to things.
She found her no somewhere in 2021, and then she's
Yeah.
been like, it's getting stronger every year. And I know by the time you're in your next birthday, it's not going to be like, yeah, it's going to be harder and harder to get her to say a yes for things that she
Yeah,
does not want to do.
right. Because when I first started saying no, I used to like explain why I was saying no so you can understand. Now it's just like because I've learned from my therapist, like no is a complete sentence. I don't have to elaborate
You
why
should
I'm
say that
saying
when you
no.
were a kid.
You did. But again, I was still a people pleaser. But I went to therapy and we had some in-depth conversations about it. And I was like, you're right. I don't have to explain why I'm saying no to things. I'm just saying no. And if
Yeah.
someone is offended by that, that says
That's
more about
their,
them
yeah.
than it does you.
They have to work on why that bothered them so much.
Right.
Because people
Right.
are allowed to have boundaries. Like your
Right.
sister is newly married, and we went to a wedding in 2024, and
Mm-hmm.
she hasn't been around the family very
Yeah.
much. This
Right.
part of the family, she's been around, to her dad's side, but not this part of the family very much. And it's sad, it was hard for me to say that out loud that my daughter is about estranged from me and you, but it's the truth. And I look at it as, she's enjoying her marriage. She's loving life. I know when I first married, my husband, I wasn't around my family very much. So I look at it like Thelma and her new husband on Good Times. They were always doing something other than hanging out with family. They be with family a little bit and they going off somewhere. So because it's beautiful, the honeymoon stage of marriage is beautiful. So let her do her. And I love and adore her, and she'll be back around when she's ready to be back around. And if not, what can I gotta respect her boundary. That's where she wants to be. I gotta
Right.
respect that's where she wants to be. Cause
Right. That's
though it's a little
right.
sad. I'm not gonna lie. That's been a little hard in this season of being gone, is that we weren't able to get that connection back the way it's supposed to be, during when she married and everything. She's also trying to ingratiate herself to a new family and help show them that she's the right woman for her husband, and show her husband they'll be fine making this life together. You have to put a lot of pieces of yourself, out there, and be so vulnerable when you're marrying somebody and marrying into another family. So it's not easy. Learning all the names alone is hard,
I'm
every
horrible with
relative.
names. Oh my
Yeah, but
goodness.
you have to learn who everybody is, their personalities, the family story with the history of stuff. It's almost like getting a PhD in a new family.
Yeah.
I wish her, nothing but the best, and send nothing but love as she, ingratiates herself into this new family. And, the door's always open. You know that, Risa, right? Phones always can
Right.
always ring. We're here. Maybe one day
Yeah.
she'll be on the podcast and have her own segment. Who knows? We'll see.
You never know.
Yeah, but we'll be recording her baptism or something. That'd be kind of cool, right?
It would be cool. A
Yeah,
full
yeah, yeah.
circle moment.
Yeah, but we wish her nothing but the best. And we are so happy that Adrian's in the family, and that, they're spending their lives together and enjoying their life together, as always. So this has been fun, Risa. Yeah, another episode concluded. We did it.
Yes, another one in the can, as you
In the
would say.
can. We'll be back on Monday. Yeah, you guys probably won't see it until probably Tuesday. We're going to record another one on Monday for Sunday's episode. We're going to actually, be tuning into First Baptist and seeing what's going on this Sunday. I think he's going to talk about Marvin Sapp a little bit. Never would have made it.
Never would
You
have
featured that nice movie, that one.
Never.
I forgot what season it was, but it was a biopic he did on Lifetime, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The new catchphrase for him is never would have paid it. But we'll elaborate more on that
On Monday.
on Monday.
Yeah. That's true. We will. So we are so grateful that you tuned in today. Our prayer is that God reveals to you that he is real, and and able to meet all your needs according to his glorious riches in Christ Jesus. You guys have a great rest of the weekend, all right? Bye now.
Bye.
I've been trying to forget, but you won't let me. Something in my brain wants you. I've been hanging by myself, asking for help, but nothing seems to work on you.
With everything crazy, you're still my source of peace. You filter out the lows,
always
give me what I
make me
need.
feel like home, yeah. You never leave my thoughts alone, yeah.
Disconnected, I feel the pressure, I need
You're
acceptance.
the reason I'm going out my mind. I just can't stop thinking about you got me feeling some type of way.
Feeling more solid about who the man in the mirror
You
is.
make me wanna stay in all day.
With everything crazy, you still my source of